Deep within the Vatican's apostolic archives lies a map from the 1500s that shows the South Pole, not as a frozen wasteland, but as a continent teeming with rivers, mountains, and, well, life. You see, I'm taking you behind those heavy bronze doors to reveal a document that, quite frankly, shouldn't exist. This isn't just some ancient error, right? It's a blueprint of a world we're told never actually happened. Imagine walking through 85 kilometers of shelving deep beneath the ancient stone streets of Rome. This is the heart of the Vatican's power, a place where information is guarded more fiercely than gold. For centuries, the Church has been the ultimate gatekeeper of human history, deciding what remains in the light and what is cast into the shadows. I've spent years tracking the whispers of what's hidden in the Forbidden Vault, and it leads back to one specific piece of vellum that shatters everything you were ever taught in school. You've been told that Antarctica was discovered in 1820, a desolate, ice-covered void. But the map I'm talking about, tucked away in the Pope's private collection, predates that discovery by 300 years. It doesn't show a wall of ice. No, it shows a lush green territory with mountain ranges that weren't even mapped by modern sonar until the 1950s. How? Tell me, how did a 16th century cartographer know the shape of a continent hidden under 2 miles of ice? The answer isn't just a mystery, it's a threat to the established narrative of our entire civilization. This document, it was silenced for a reason. As we go deeper into these archives, you'll realize that the Church wasn't just protecting a map, they were protecting a secret about where we come from and what still exists at the bottom of the world. By the end of this, I will show you exactly why the Church spent centuries ensuring you never saw this coastline. I want you to think back to those history books you read in school. You know, the ones where the narrative is always consistent, almost sanctified. We are told that Antarctica was first sighted in 1820 by Russian and British explorers. But before that, it was a ghost, a terra incognita that existed only in the imagination of ancient geographers. Science tells us that this landmass has been encased in a tomb of ice 2 miles thick for over 30 million years. To the modern world, it is a dead, inhospitable void at the bottom of the map. A place, quite literally, where life goes to freeze. But as I began digging through the breadcrumbs left behind by those who hold the keys to the past, well, I found a contradiction that shatters this timeline. You see, while the public was being fed a story of a frozen wasteland, the Vatican's private collection suggests a very different reality. I mean, I have to ask, why create a 30 million year lie if the truth was already sitting in your own library? Think about the implications, right? If the Church possesses maps that show the coastline of Antarctica without its icy shroud, details that weren't officially discovered until modern satellite imagery, then everything we know about the rise of human civilization is a fabrication. The official narrative claims that no human eye saw that land until the 19th century. Yet, hidden behind the high walls of the Apostolic Archive, there are documents that suggest someone was there. Whispering, walking those shores and measuring those mountains long before the very first snowflake ever fell.
You start to realize that the history we are taught isn't just a record of events. It's a controlled boundary. By telling us the South Pole has been frozen since before humans even existed, they ensure we never look for what might be buried beneath that ice. They've built a wall of time to keep us from asking the most dangerous question of all. Because if those maps are real, it means someone was mapping the world at a time when we were supposed to be nothing more than primitive hunters. But that's not even the craziest part, you know? As I looked closer at these restricted charts, I noticed one detail that everyone seems to have missed. A detail that suggests the ice isn't just a natural barrier, but a mask for something much more disturbing. You see, the anomaly isn't just the existence of these maps. It's the impossible precision. I want you to look closely, really closely, at the works of Laurence Finet and Puri Rice. These men were world-class cartographers of the 16th century, and both of them, well, they had documented links to the deep, shadowy archives of the Vatican Library. On awe. On their charts, you see the coastline of Antarctica rendered with a level of detail that should have been technically totally impossible for the 1500s. But it gets even stranger, right? I'm not just talking about the shape of the continent. I'm talking about the subglacial accuracy. Whoa, mysterious voice. These maps show the mountains, the valleys, and the very riverbeds of Antarctica as they appear without a single inch of ice covering them. Slightly dismissive. For centuries, you see, skeptics claimed these were just the imaginings of, bored sailors. But in 1958, the British, Swedish, Norwegian Antarctic expedition conducted a comprehensive seismic survey. They used sound waves to peer through miles of solid ice, just to see what the land underneath actually looked like, whispering with chills. When I compared those 20th century seismic profiles to the lines drawn by Laurence Venet 500 years ago, the hair on the back of my neck, it literally stood up. They match perfectly, foamily. The peaks and ridges these men drew aren't fantasies. They are the literal bedrock of the continent. Grave, thoughtful. This means one of two things, and both are equally terrifying to the established narrative. Either these cartographers saw the land before the ice formed, meaning they were looking at a version of Earth from over 10,000 years ago, or they had access to records left behind by a civilization that did. The Vatican isn't just hiding a collection of old yellowed paper. No, they are hiding the smoking gun of a pre-cataclysmic world. They possess the data that proves our history books are missing a massive, sophisticated chapter of human existence. A chapter where someone was flying, or at least surveying, the entire globe with high-level technology, while the rest of us were supposed to be, sharpening stone spears. I'm starting to realize that the church isn't protecting a religious secret. They're protecting a monopoly on the origin of humanity itself. But as I dug deeper into how this information actually reached the Vatican's inner circle, I found a trail that leads away from the Mediterranean into a much darker, much colder source. Because as accurate as these maps are, they contain specifically the direction. I want you to look closely at a document that, well, by all accounts of official history, should not exist. It's the 1531 map by Laurence Venet. On the surface, you see, it's a beautiful piece of 16th century cartography. But as I studied the southern landmass depicted on it, the hair on my arms actually stood up. This map shows Antarctica with startling detail. Mountain ranges, river valleys, and coastlines, all visible and completely free of ice. But here's where it gets truly unsettling. In 1958, modern scientists conducted a massive seismic survey of the Antarctic bedrock, to see what the land actually looks like beneath miles of ice. When I overlaid that seismic data with Venet's 1531 map, the outlines were nearly identical. Someone mapped the topography of the South Pole long before the ice covered it. Or perhaps they had technology we aren't supposed to know about. This brings me to the Great Redaction. As I traced the timeline of these maps, I noticed a pattern, actually a very deliberate pattern. During the mid-16th century, as the Vatican consolidated its grip on global geography, these hyper-accurate charts began to vanish from the public record. They weren't just lost, they were scrubbed. The church became the sole gatekeeper of the world's true shape. Think about it. If I wanted to control a population, I'd start by controlling their understanding of where they live. By hiding the reality of a habitable, ice-free South Pole, they didn't just hide a continent. They hid an entire chapter of human history that doesn't fit the official narrative. And the silence? Well, it hasn't ended.
I've spent years looking into why the Vatican remains the only entity on Earth that seems to bypass the strict international treaties governing Antarctica. While every other nation is restricted by environmental protocols and military bans, the Holy See operates with a level of sovereign immunity, right? An immunity that allows them to investigate what internal documents call biblical anomalies deep beneath the polar shelf. I believe they aren't just protecting a religious doctrine. They are protecting a monopoly on the past. They know exactly what is buried under that ice, and they know that if the truth ever got out, it wouldn't just change our maps. It would shatter our understanding of who we are. But even the best kept secrets have a way of leaking out. Because as I looked into the most recent expedition sanctioned by the church, I found a series of coordinates that lead to a location so remote and so heavily guarded that even the satellites seem to blink when they pass over it. However, the most disturbing part isn't what the Vatican is hiding. It's who they're hiding it for. The realization? Well, it's honestly chilling. I mean, I've spent years tracking these anomalies, but the trail, it always leads back to those silent stone walls in Rome. Just think about it for a second. If these maps, the ones tucked away in the temperature-controlled darkness of the secret archives, show a continent teeming with life, while the rest of the world is shown a desert of ice, then our entire understanding of human history, it's a fabrication maintained by those in power.
Look, we aren't just talking about a missing piece of geography here. We're talking about a timeline. One that has been scrubbed clean, rewritten to keep us in the dark about where we actually come from. The church has spent centuries positioning itself as the gatekeeper of the spirit. But these maps? They suggest they are the gatekeepers of our physical reality as well. I have to ask you, right? If the South Pole isn't what they say it is, what else are they hiding in the shadows of the Vatican? Is it the wreckage of a lost civilization? Or perhaps a truth so profound it would render every modern institution obsolete? The evidence is there, buried beneath miles of ice. And the keys? Oh, they're held by those who fear what happens when the curated lie finally falls apart. I believe the truth doesn't belong to them. It belongs to us. So, if you're ready to stop believing the official narrative and join me for the next investigation into what they don't want us to see, well, hit subscribe. We're only just beginning to scratch the surface of the secrets they've buried. I want to know your theories in the comments. I really do. What do you think is really buried at the bottom of the world? Is it a treasure we've lost? Or a warning we've forgotten?